the key areas we're looking at today, allow me to just talk about the network. I think most times we jumble too many things into networks. We move from being a network into becoming a mandate operator of numerous other activities, and we start stepping on each other's toes. I just want to reaffirm that this network is a collaborative network that works towards bringing common interests together. Why would we be looking at a network? And we thought I thought maybe I should unpack that. I think one, networks have powers in numbers. It allows us to do something that you would not ideally be able to do on your own. For example, let's say we're looking at pushing for a specific policy area. The more people that feel that policy would have an impact on the development of the country would allow to give us the economies of scale to be able to push that forward. The second thing is iron sharpens iron. If we work together, we are able to actually sharpen each other. We are able to perfect our areas of operation, but we are also able to identify areas of collaborative synergies amongst ourselves. Last but not least, the network will help us to meet needs of the different people amongst ourselves. So for UIA, Women Entrepreneurs Network was established in 2004-2005, and it was really established to be able to facilitate this. I must say that over the years, somehow most of our partners grew much bigger than UIA, and probably felt that they were not benefiting as much as they should be benefiting from this network, and somehow the network have hibernated. We would now like us to really start re-engaging in this network, because the network will allow us to do a number of things. This network is run by UIA. It is a neutral body. We do not dive into your specific operation areas, but we remain at the strategic level to be able to look at the things that we can do together as a common goal for the benefit of investment enabling environment. And it also allows us to be able to pick up on certain best practices. And that means that we will have some sort of engagement within this ecosystem where we are engaging with politicians. For example, we want politicians to advocate for certain activities, but we may also want politicians to address certain issues like, like quality amongst their areas of jurisdiction. We have government, we have civil society organizations, service providers, suppliers, you can name them according to what we need to achieve. A person would ask why UIA when? We all know that Uganda Investment Authority is the lead agency for investment facilitation. Uganda Investment Authority sits in a very pivotal position to be able to connect direct domestic investors to FDIs. It has the ability also to market these networks for improved delivery along the value chains and supply chains. But in specific, this network will exist to advise on investment, to provide information on investment opportunities, to assist with acquisition of secondary licenses. We may have one license. Of course, most of us here may in the formal sector, so you have your license to operate. But you may require secondary licenses that offer you incentives. We are there to facilitate and to advise on that, and also to fast track that. Now, I think we live in a global economy, and it's very important for us to know that in this global economy, you don't need to kill yourself if you see an opportunity where you could go into joint venture partnerships. Now, joint venture partnerships are not that easy. It's easier stated than done. When you have to go through it, there are a lot of due diligences that are required. And if we work together, UIA has the capacity and it has the weight to be able to help us with those due diligence areas. Then we also have business linkages. We have identifications and linkage to alternative investment financing. I know that is more easier said, especially in this time when a lot of businesses have gone through the COVID pandemic and are struggling. We now have the second lockdown, and we need to be able to see how we best address that. And then also for SME enhancement. Why do we talk about SME enhancement? If you look at, in a slide later on, I will talk about the number of things that SME are very much valued in this country for their contribution towards GDP. And then, of course, UIA is a one-stop center, service center. In our one-stop center, physical one-stop center, now you have about 13 agencies. That means if you walked into the one-stop center, you may be able to address quite a number of issues at one go. Things like talk to Omeme, things like to do with land, and a number of others. Moderator, allow me to just quickly highlight the UIA membership. And for members here, now the UIA membership is client-based, and our client base are industry-based associations, investment clubs, and industry regulatory associations. It doesn't mean that you're going to have to be in a woman-only organization to be in this. If, for example, you're in an commodity exchange area, which is both male and female, we still allow our female counterparts in that place to join this association, because then they're able to address the issues that directly impact the women within this grouping. Membership is by introduction, so we request that those who wish to join membership or associations wishing to join membership to introduce themselves to UIA, clearly stating their mandate area and membership base, which allows us to look at inclusivity. UIA may invite advocacy bodies that may not be direct investors, but strategic partners within the ecosystems. The unifying and unwritten law here is collaborating for an enabling and competitive investment environment. The key word there is collaborating. And if we collaborate well, then we are able to take the activities to the next level. And collectively, a non-executive committee will be democratically elected to ensure that the objectives of the network are met. Now, that is it for when. The desk officer is Leslie Mutumba. I think he's in the grouping and will at some stage be able to say something. Now, let me quickly talk about the overview of Uganda's SME sector. This is a study this is data from URA. It says that 25% of GDP, which is about 3.54 trillion, was domestic revenue, and that is in the financial year 2018-19. 45% of employment also came from SMEs. Now, it notes that a number of the SMEs are young, and most SMEs rely on word of mouth, which needs to be changed. And most micro establishments employ 5 or less people. So here we are actually bringing information that if we really are able to bring the SME platform into a more organized and formal setting, we would be contributing a lot more to GDP of this country and also creating jobs for the many youth who are actually not employed currently. The challenges are well known to all of us in this forum, but I just want to quickly look at the environment of the COVID-19. And please allow me that we take one moment at this stage just to remember colleagues and dear ones who have passed because of this COVID pandemic. So let's just take 1 minute and just remember and pray for the souls and pray for comfort for those who have lost dear ones, who will continue to have dear ones in hospitals, with the hospitals being grossly expensive. We pray that God will look after us and protect us, but most importantly, that we become responsible citizens, responsible family members, and responsible players within our environment. So help us God. Amen. Let's continue. I think the COVID pandemic, despite the issues that I have just raised in terms of health, in terms of disruption, has indeed disrupted a lot of the economy. But we must say there was also some silver lining of the COVID-19, which offers great opportunities in the sectors below. Manufacturing and agro-processing. I've put agro-processing under 2, which says value addition, and food processing, cottage industries, services, domestic tourism, healthcare, and home learning. Agriculture in itself actually poses a very good and very lucrative business under the agro-tourism sector. The other areas is supply and logistics, value chains, construction, horticulture, and high-density farming, especially greenhousing, and most important foundation of all these activities to grow is the ICT and the digitization. Here, I want to actually state that a key thing that UIA WED and its partners need to look at is how we can actually look at this SME COVID-19 stimulant missing middle. A number of our players have not been able to access any stimulant funding, and that is a major challenge. Quickly, I'm going to share this slide, so I'm not going to go so much into it, but if you look at the relationship, if you look at the non-minority owner businesses, okay, you will see that they're into manufacturing. Why are they into manufacturing? Because manufacturing gives value addition, and the unit cost of what you sell is actually giving you real value for money. If you look at the side where you have the women and the minority groups, we are only about 45%. And it's important that we start changing the tables. The minority groups here, this was our COVID-19 survey, says that 32% of the total respondents were women minority groups. They are mainly engaged in agriculture, services, manufacture and manufacturing sectors. But we need to start taking the agriculture into more value addition activities. Key, that is a module in which we think that we should be engaging this post-COVID-19, how we see finances, how we introduce new technologies, new ideas and innovations, and also partnership. Moderator, as I begin to wind down, I'd like to just really quickly share the UIA Strategic Plan 2020-2025 is the same is accelerating domestic and foreign direct investment for sustainable industrialization. And it's modeled on 5 pillars. The 2 pillars that the domestic area is looking at is pillar number 2, which is improving domestic and international competitiveness. We can only improve our competitiveness by us doing business the right way. The second is accelerating Uganda's industrialization through service and industrial parks. Industrial parks are a pivot agenda under the NDP3, and we need to see how we can go and how we can be players in this area. Now, the division I lead is actually a facilitating arm for the SME pillars, and we do it in about 4 key areas: access to finance, access to sanitary and quality and sanitary standards, access to affordable financing. We are also looking at facilitating to access markets, and then adaptation to technology. Now, all this we do through the National SME Portal, which is a key portal that is going to help us in traceability. It's going to help us in having a transparent platform of SMEs. It is also going to help us to link and coordinate activities. We do a number of activities as SMEs, but they are not coordinated. My 2 last slides is just highlights from the National SME Portal. The first is you can see that we have the existing data of 358,000 MSEs, and these are the ones who have been profiled. They are traceable by geographical location, which is easy for us in terms of service delivery. Majority of them are in the formal sector. They need to be moved into the formal sector. Majority of them are in the agricultural sector, and we do know that quality is a key driver for sustainable and lucrative agriculture. Now, the second slide it shows you the value chains. And why am I showing this? I'm showing this because it is important that as we begin to trace for global presence, it is important that we are able to trace any product right to the source. And that, I think, as we talk about standards, I'm sure Patricia will talk a little bit about that. Now, in our specific programs, what we are doing is we are actually looking at regional programs. The first is we are going to be creating and working with agro-value and supply chains in regions and the growth triangle. We will also be enhancing coordination between women associations. We need to be collaborating to implement the local content to take our 30%, because in all procurement, we should be taking 30%. We should by now be moving from the 30% to 40% and eventually to 50%. It is doable. In Kenya, it's already happening. The other is investment in the created industrial and business parks. Not many of us have got space or even try or know what happens in the industrial parks. So we need to be looking at that critically. We need to be profiling our members, and I speak specifically to the associations here. We need to have our members on board and our members to begin to see that the members are traceable, and we can trace them both for services and for business. And then the business linkages. Last but not least, we should be looking at how we can recruit women associations and investment clubs into UIA when, and then we can begin to lobby, advocate, research, and do businesses together. So in my concluding remarks, I'd like just to say that a network is powerful, a powerful lobby group where members become better because of healthy competition, advice, and needs are met. Problems are solved. That's why we are reviving this. And please remember, pin your environment. Power in numbers, iron sharpens iron, needs are met. Thank you. Moderator, back to you.
Thank you so much for your, I must say, insightful comments. And I know that people will have some questions going forward. So I'm asking that you stay around, Madam Winnie, to answer those questions. At this time,
my heart, I will stay to the end.
You will stay to the end. Great. I know that I just need to check. I see that Henrietta has a hand up. I'm going to allow you to talk if it is related to what Madam Winnie was saying. Henrietta? I think Henrietta maybe put up her hand by mistake, but Peter also has a question, I believe, for you. But in the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to ask you to send the questions via the Q&A and chat so that we can answer them once. In the meantime, I am going to take this opportunity to invite Mr. Richard Okuti is going to talk to us about ICT, agro-processing, and manufacturing. The floor is yours, Richard.
Thank you very much, Faith. I hope my background is visible.
It is.
I will just put up my small presentation here. Let me see. Let me share the screen. Share screen. So I hope you're all able to see my screen.
Yes, we are.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies. And if there are any gentlemen, I may be the only one here today. My topic was very, very interesting, and I realize I might have overshot. So I will make sure to talk very briefly on subjects that I think are a bit too far from us, and spend more time on subjects that I think are more useful to us. So This opening slide is, of course, about me. And I focused a lot more my presentation on producing and processing for the market. It's very, very important that when you look at manufacturing associated with agriculture, it is normally very, very difficult to go straight to the processing or the manufacturing without looking at the background, because some people may be handling the other part of the value chain, which is production. So I looked a bit into production as well, and then we will talk a bit more around processing and manufacturing and access to markets. So moving forward, that is just to show you the contents of the presentation and the areas I'll touch. I'll go a bit fast on them, and please feel free to ask me questions after the presentation, because I think I have only 10 to 12 minutes to finish the presentation. So I will start with the application of ICT in planning, production, and processing. And very, very importantly, the good thing is that many of us have had access to school, so we all have at least some basic education. So it's important to look at where your products that you're going to process or your raw materials are coming from before you process them, and also look at the market needs before you start processing them. And the role that ICT can play here is to help you collect intelligence for your planning before you even start any activity. And this, at this point, of course, as a processing person or as a manufacturer, you need to be able to advise the people who are supplying you with raw materials or with inputs to your business, to observe these kind of issues as they go into production. Market intelligence using ICT can help you determine real-time pricing of the products that you intend to manufacture, variety demands in the market, the size of the market that and its competence to buy from you, the locations of this market, quality and quantities requirements in these markets. Market intelligence can also help you to forecast weather, also understand disease patterns. This is interesting for Greek people. To understand the potential crisis and also plan climate change mitigation measures. So what this does, what market intelligence really does, is to bring together all the relevant data that you need for your planning, the analytics of that data that you need for decision making, also helps you to eliminate manual tasks and reduce the costs. And you know, this system, since it's technology, is always at work. I just left here a link as an example of a source of market intelligence for those of you who are producing and would like to even maybe go to the export market. Of course, as a producer, you need to also understand where your supplies and inputs are coming from and the various associated issues. So again, you can apply here management information systems to understand how much seed production is going on, what inventory is there, sales and distribution, and as well using various software applications. I think this is not very relevant here, so I will just run over it. But of course, it gives you an idea of where your raw materials are coming from. And again, advice to producers, some of you may be producing what you're processing. Again, management information systems can help you a lot in cooperating and clustering. For instance, aggregating your purchases and understanding how much you want to purchase and what it will cost you. Aggregating the size of land that you're going to use and foretelling what that land can produce, and also transaction processing and many things thereafter. Now, for the farmer as a businessman, of course, you can map your land and soils, and water resources, analyze cost of inputs, processing and outputs, forecasting, and all this. This is all work you can do using ICT. And now that it's even getting better, there is robotics, there is Internet of Things, and a lot more that you can do with technology as a businessman in the agricultural sector. When you look at the technical aspects, you can also optimize the use of your resources, again, using these technologies that are so advanced. Now you can decide how much water, fertilizer, pesticides can go into what specific fields and in what quantities, thereby reducing your costs of doing business. And of course, get greater efficiencies, lower prices, safer growing conditions, and so forth. I'm jumping over this because it's not really relevant for you. I didn't get enough time to study the audience. And then, of course, bulking and storage, which is also very important. And I think this is where the gist of the matter begins for you, especially, for instance, if you're bulking, let's say, shea butter, or you're bulking grain, or you're bulking oil seed, and so forth. You can use, again, technology to learn more about the best practices and do peer-to-peer support of each other in applying these best practices. You'll see later where I suggest technologies for peer-to-peer consulting. Again, you can use ICT for inventory management of your warehouse storage. You can then develop e-receipts and e-vouchers, which can become viable for use to access credit and to also access other resources. So in terms of the core of processing and manufacturing, there's new technology like 3D printing. This is a bit advanced, where I use models to convert, designs into real items. And this may not be something that you apply a lot, but I know that mostly now you can apply technology for brand development, brand communication, and I'll show you a lot of tools that you can use for developing your brand and communicating it to the public. But this is just information for you. As you grow bigger, you're going to understand that you need to do to know more about 3D printing, so that you can actually reduce your costs of design, your costs of manufacturing, and you make a better profit at the end of the day. Internet of Things, of course, this is you've heard about this. This is really when you're combining the use of different tools, some machines working with the robots and converting to human beings, whatever they're doing, and making sure that the entire process from input to processing to output is managed using different platforms. Nanotechnologies for enhancing materials. I know you're aware of this, most of you. Cloud computing is now very good for you to work, peer-to-peer support in understanding how each of you is doing their processing and how they're meeting their quality requirements and so forth. This can make you work across different countries and different time zones. And already I see that some SMEs are already practicing this, using especially the Google tools that are fairly affordable and being promoted in Uganda as well. So here I'll give you some leading examples of management information systems. These really work for the bigger firms that are able to acquire these systems themselves. Some of these are full enterprise resource planning tools. You might have seen these logos around. Then I'll bring you more to some of the easy ways in which you can actually develop and communicate your brand to the market. And I'm sure all of you are very used to and have seen a lot of these tools. Google, I've already talked about Google. Facebook now, there's Facebook for Business, which you can use to develop and promote your brand. There's LinkedIn. There are knowledge management tools like Asana. There is Instagram. There's Snapchat. There's Twitter. There's Zoom and WhatsApp. There are so many ways you can use these tools actually to access your markets. And I see many people use these tools for social interaction, but all the time you spend using these tools for social interaction could also be a useful time to get access to markets, to do peer-to-peer support of each other, to aggregate your work and work together. For instance, if you're several small businesses producing, let's say, honey for the market, you could work together and come up with one big brand using some of these tools to work together and then connect to the market as well. Generally speaking, ICT is really cross-cutting. Some of the general benefits are real-time intelligence on market behaviors, trends, weather, and so forth. Also, ICT can help you mitigate a lot of uninformed procurement of poor quality and varieties, as well as other inputs. So you can actually reduce procurement of poor and undesirable items because you have knowledge and intelligence about that. You can improve quality of products for the market because you also have intelligence. And so therefore you end up doing what we normally call knowledge-based harvest handling and value addition. And so you're producing with knowledge of specifications that the market requires, the size of product they require, the amount of money they may be willing to pay, and you'll be able to adhere to global standards because of this. And some of these benefits, of course, reduce the cost of doing business and make you a more efficient organization. Some of the benefits that I can share with you if you embrace these technologies are, for instance, you have a global reach. Websites, email, and social media allow you to trade with the entire world, where the investment is quite affordable. So you can make a simple website or a simple page, or get very active on social media and still reach a large audience. You have access to intelligence. You can track activity, measure results, tailor your communication to various audiences. So this is another advantage. Personalization, it's really customer-centric. You can reach each customer directly and target them individually with their specific needs. Of course, social currency, you're able to build a community with ease and ensure continued engagement. Social media, getting involved and building customer loyalty. And of course, increase your sales. And basically, it's important to note that automation can go almost to any corner of your business. So it's really up to you to plan and decide what tools you may take and strategically use to grow your business and access the market. Of course, after using all the intelligence that you have got to do the right kind of product. Talking about opportunities for youth and women, one opportunity that I see the youth and the women can take advantage of is the cooperating and clustering. And why do I focus so much on this? I mentioned it earlier. And you see, with the advantage of Uganda Investment Authority, micro businesses and small businesses could easily become bigger corporations if they learn to work together, cluster so that they can produce big, target bigger markets, and enjoy economies of scale to be able to work towards a big coexistence. So in this area, you can use Google tools, for instance, cloud tools to cluster yourselves. Even if you are, for example, in Kabale or Arua or Moroto, you could all still work together and have a joint way of delivering product and using technology to understand how much you'll be able to produce, at what cost, and how much you're going to price it, and all these things combined. I talked about mitigation of uninformed procurement, improvement of quality, knowledge base, and adherence to global standards. So examples of the opportunities that are there for the youth. If you consider employment, you could look at management, marketing, financial operations, cooperatives, and others. In this case, you could go and work for organizations that are already organized and bring this knowledge to them, bring IT to their businesses. You can go and provide market intelligence, but you could also be an entrepreneur, and I want to believe this group is mostly full of entrepreneurs. And so this is how you could develop a new business, also by engaging in e-commerce. Even if you were not really a producer yourself or someone processing yourself, you could engage in e-commerce. You could engage in developing virtual trading floors and or become a logistics services provider. And these are very many different opportunities beyond the actual processing and manufacturing of agricultural products. So my advice, and I hope I have managed to rush over this quickly, is we need to change our mindset and embrace production for the market using ICT as an enabler, cooperate and cluster so that we can aggregate resources and use ICT more efficiently, and always benchmark with best practices. I will take you back to this slide and just say that the gist of the matter is here. And if you understand how all these tools work, I think you'll understand digital very, very easily. So thank you very much for your time, for listening. And please feel free to shoot any questions. This presentation was meant for probably much larger enterprises, but I've tried to scale it down and talk about more down-to-earth items. So I hope it has been useful for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. At least it has been helpful for me. And we're going to let the participants ask a few questions. But right before they do, I was particularly interested in your slide about Facebook, WhatsApp, neighbors, Zoom, and I think one of the things there was Asana, which is the one I'm not very familiar with. So I'm wondering if you can very simply explain what Asana is and why we should be adopting it as part of one of the tools we're using as SMEs or women in business.
So Asana is more of a knowledge management tool, and it's really a tool for managing tasks. So if, for instance, if micro-organizations came together to produce a specific product, they could use it to manage their day-to-day activities and say, today we have produced so much, maybe so much came out of Masindi, so much came out of Kampala, so much came out of Mukono, and then this tool will actually aggregate whatever has been produced for you. You don't have even to compute. Each producer just inputs and says, I produced so much. So for you, you look at the tool and say, okay, this is how much product we have today. And you can even forecast that maybe by Friday, we'll have so many tons of the product. So it's basically managing process production and also the knowledge for decision making.
Thank you.
But there's so many tools out there, you don't even have to adopt Asana. The tools are so many. These are some of the common brands. So it's really up to the businesses to agree on what works for them.
Great. Peter had a question. I don't know if it's for you or for Miss Winnie. Peter? Peter seems to have left the room, but Madam Winnie, there was a question here about how one joins when, and how the network and UIA can support agribusiness to seek areas, that they can work in rural areas where the infrastructure challenges are too many. I hope the question was clear.
I'll start with the first one of how a person joins when. When, like I said, is a network of women of associations, investment clubs, and business clubs. So one of the things is that we normally recommend that you go into your core association or core club or membership first, and then the member executives join the when. And the reason we are doing this is because we are looking at how we collaborate at strategic levels to be able to create an enabling environment for investments to flourish. If you are already a member of an organization, say even an investment club, just an investment club, you can write to us. There's a desk officer, like I said, who will say something at a later stage. If they don't, I will make a few comments at my end, closing remarks. Write a letter to UIA and indicate that you'd like to join when, but specify who in your membership would be the contact person, what your membership is all about, and how many members you have. Now, the second question the person asked is how UIA can support work in the rural areas. I think one of the key things to note first is that Uganda as a country has gone into program-based planning and implementation. Now, when the country made that decision, I think so far it's the most desirable framework that will actually see a well-balanced out implementation of activities. Now, around the local governments, each area has a program. Local governments have programs to roll out enabling environments in their areas. And from a UIA perspective, we begin to see how we cluster. Once we cluster, we have economies of scale, like Richard said, and then we can begin to address issues that impact production. The key thing that we need to know is that when we begin to talk about industrialization, and we begin to talk about activities and programs, there are quite a number of services within the infrastructure area that the government of Uganda has deployed across the country. But because it was not well aligned within the program basis, you'll find that, for example, warehouses have been built in some of our parishes. And those warehouses are seated there. Somebody comes and slashes them maybe every so often, and they're not being used. I think we need to start thinking. I think it was President Kennedy who said, we always ask, what is our government doing for us? We probably in this network, let's start saying, what can we do for our government? How can we utilize infrastructure that has been put in place? How can we audit the infrastructure? How can we highlight the infrastructure which is missing? And together, on an evidence-based agenda, begin to lobby and advocate. So indeed, we cannot promise, of course, the resource basket as a country is small. We cannot promise that we are going to do a number of all these things at one go. But if you are an investor, my call to you is look out for areas which have been created, whether it is the Free Zones Authority, or it is Uganda Investment Authority industrial parks, or the local government industrial parks that are going to be created, 25 of them around the country. And those will actually give you a sort of an enabling platform on which to start benefiting from infrastructure like electricity, like roads, access to a road that can produce your products. But this is not to discourage the rural area people. cluster yourself. And if you have clustered, the numbers will talk for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Winnie. There is a question also for Richard, which basically implies that you seem to think that the majority of us have the background in ICT systems. And we're wondering if there's any way you can maybe provide information on management systems applicable to agri-processing. I don't know if you have the answer now, or maybe you can share that information later. I don't know, Richard.
Not really. I don't have information right now. But just before we started, I was able to understand the audience a bit more. So I will work out some more appropriate and simpler processing, manufacturing tools that can be used, and also access to market tools. But they are all simple, and the concept or the theory behind it is just the same. Just that maybe, I don't know, I hope I didn't use a lot of technical jargon, because we tend to use those words a lot. I will also clean out a lot of that technical jargon, and then share with you more content that you can share with the businesses.
I think, Faith, let me just say something on that management information systems. I think for us SMEs or micro companies, the first and most important thing is how you collect information about your business. And when you're collecting information about your business, there are a number of about 4 critical things. Information on your finances, where it comes from and how it goes out. Information about your products. Where is the raw material coming from? What additions are you doing on that raw material? How are you moving it forward? The information about your ledgers. How much of that material do you have in stock? How much do you have or how fast do you get it? Then your human resources. Once that information has been collected, even in the manual state, you already have a management information system, because that will allow you to begin looking at certain trends. Management information systems are supposed to give you certain trends, and those trends are the ones that you use and is commonly used as known as artificial intelligence to make information about your next move. If you know, for example, that your raw material comes from Mawokota, and you know that you read in the papers that this season of Mawokota has done very badly, they will not have beans, and your product is beans. That information will be able to tell you that what I have in the stores and what I need to supply will not be sufficient. Now, that information is that what you then start transferring to take into an ICT environment. It could be a simple Excel form. It could be a simple, it could even be a simple phone. You download a diary and you keep that information there, and it begins to take you to the next level. One of our programs that we are doing, and probably I think it's important that in our next engagement, we have something to do with this digitization of your activities. So you begin to see the simple things that will eventually take you to the core digital management information systems. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Winnie, for that great insight. We had one last question from Charlotte, who was asking about perhaps lobbying with government to open up Facebook, because as you know, it has affected businesses in a number of ways. This is the response that Mrs. Lauko gave, is that evidence-based lobbying will go a long way, and that's for sure. And as a network, UIA can facilitate meetings and discussions with the relevant bodies. And I think that's the perfect segue into our next talk. And I would like to invite Patricia Ejalo from UNBS to talk about standards and how these can help us in marketing our products, in getting the right level that we need to move ahead. So Patricia, you are most welcome. Thank you so much, Richard, for those insights.
Thank you very much, Faith. And if it's okay, I can go ahead and share my screen.
Please go ahead.
I hope everybody can see this.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can, Patricia.
Okay. So thank you all very, very much. My name is Patricia Bagena Ejalu, and I am the Deputy Executive Director at the Uganda National Bureau of Standards. I supervise the Standards Directorate, which I will be giving a bit more detail in my presentation. I'll try and go through the first slides very quickly. It's always important to know what UNBS does, and then we'll focus a little bit more on the issues of certification and testing and how standards can help with doing business better. So just in brief, as you can see, UNBS is a statutory body under the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. That is the ministry that supervises us. And there are two acts that we implement. That is the UNBS Act, as well as the Weights and Measures Act, which covers issues to do with measurement in trade. Our structure is basically, we have the executive director, and then we have 3 directorates, the management and financial services, and then 2 technical directorates, the standards directorate, which is what I supervise, and then the compliance directorate, which does the enforcement work. So we have 2 distinct activities, one that is promotional and the other one that is regulatory. When it comes to the issue of standards, key to this, something that we need to understand is that standards are developed using what we call technical committees that are made up of people who are not UNBS staff. They are members of the public, all from different areas, manufacturers, academicians, consumer groups, traders, all the people concerned in a specific sector. And they are the people who sit down and agree on what a Uganda standard, for example, water is going to be. So UNBS manages those technical committees. The work that comes out of there is what is approved by our board, referred to as the National Standards Council, and that's when it becomes a Uganda standard. A standard is basically a simple document that is approved and recognized by a body like UNBS and provides common, is able to provide common and repeated use. It has specifications, codes of practice, or test methods within them. And just a reminder, the standard is based on consensus. It means that the people who have sat together have come to an agreement of what should be in that standard. Competition and quality can lead to a more sustainable competitive advantage. It's not only the issue about price, and it is becoming very clear that high quality market segments are not as vulnerable to declining terms of trade. It means that where people are producing a high quality good or service, they are not affected very much by different crises that come up all the time, including what we're going through right now. And so we want to encourage people to make sure that what they're producing is of high quality and is able to sustain whatever comes in that market that they're in. So to enable competitiveness in the market, UNBS undertakes what we call conformity assessment services. One of those is what we refer to as testing. We are required to test the product to confirm that it meets the requirements in the standard. We are required to carry out calibration, and this is done under the National Metrology Laboratories. Calibration is basically measurement, the science of measurement, to make sure that a scale or a pressure gauge is actually giving you the right measurement. For example, when you're making milk, you require a temperature. For UHT, you have to reach 96 within a certain number of minutes. How do you know that the thermometer you're reading is giving you that correct reading? So we actually calibrate the equipment to make sure it's giving you the right measurement. And of course, the issue of certification, and this is the Q mark that we provide or we give to products that have gone through a conformity assessment process and they have been found to be meeting the requirements. So basically, conformity assessment, which could be inspection if it's regulatory, or an audit, which is for promotional issues like certification, conformity evaluation by observation and judgment, accompanied as appropriate by measurement, testing, or gauging. We have the issue of testing or calibration, which is done in our testing or metrology labs or in recognized labs, which are privately owned. And then the issue of certification, which is a procedure where a third party gives written assurance that a product or process conforms to the required specifications. Why is conformity assessment important? For importing countries, protect their citizens. You want to be assured that the products that are coming in meet the standards and are not going to cause a challenge to the nationals in the country. For exporting countries, to protect their markets. You want to make sure that wherever you send your product, there will never be any question about it. You know, when a product leaves a certain country, it's no longer about the person who makes it, it's about where that product is coming from. And so conformity assessment helps to protect the reputation of a country, an exporting country. Of course, for consumers to protect themselves against safety hazards and economic exploitation. And of course, the producers, the manufacturers, the farmers, the traders, to ensure that their products conform to standards and regulations for the respective markets in which they're participating in. So on the regulatory part, we have what we call the legal metrology. This is where we verify scales, petrol dispensers, anything where you have to exchange money for a measurement. The legal metrology team handles that and they verify all that equipment. We have the import inspection team that inspects all the goods that are coming into the country based on the very same Uganda standards. Those are the standards that are used whether the product is made in Uganda or whether it's imported, because there must be fairness under the World Trade Organization rules. And then we have, of course, the surveillance team that goes out into the market to ensure that what is there is actually meeting the standards. So in 2018, we implemented the distinctive mark regulation. This required all products that were covered by compulsory standards to have mandatory certification. And the objective of this was enterprise competitiveness. We need to make sure that the products are of a quality that will allow us to compete, not just in the local markets, but in regional and international markets as well. Trade facilitation, for you to access the market, you need to first make sure that the product is meeting the requirements. We cannot have products that are going to cause harm to people or are going to allow for unfair trade. And then we have consumer protection. We have to be able to protect the consumers who are going to consume these products. The manner in which we've done this, and this is how we have brought a lot of support even to the MSMEs when we were implementing this from 2018 and to date as well, of course, barring the interruption with issues to do with COVID, we have engaged stakeholders a lot, both private and government, to try and help people understand why it's important to implement these kind of regulations and why certification is so important for all parties concerned. We have looked at the capacity building. We have specialized and focused on training of private sector association members. Sorry about that. I had a bit of an interruption in the office. We have trained association members, district leaders, because the idea here is that we want people to be able to speak about standards and the requirements for certification, regardless of whether they are from UNBS or not. UNBS is not everywhere, but there are groups and associations that are more widely spread than we are. So we've gone into that level where we've had training sessions with groups like UZIA, with UWIL, with UMA, with TUNADO, with the Cottage Industry Association, just trying to make sure that people understand and are able to support each other even when UNBS is not there. Our responsiveness also, we have worked on this by trying to ensure that we have recognition of private labs so that the issue of testing is not just from UNBS. You can get results from a recognized private lab and we shall use them for certification. We have decentralized our UNBS services to, at least right now, we are in Mbarara, Mbale, and Gulu when it comes to certification and surveillance activities. And in Gulu, we are soon to launch our laboratory there. We hope to open labs also again in Mbarara and in Mbale. But we've also developed online systems, and these have helped us very much. In fact, by the time the COVID issue started, it is so fortunate that we had these systems running and we were able to continue serving people even when staff could not move. So the LIM system, that's the Laboratory Information Management System, Once the samples are received here, you will get your test report online. For the certification information management system, you are able to apply and do everything about certification without actually coming to UNBS. And MetLIMS is the system that runs the calibration activities as well. So when you're dealing with certification, we often give areas of focus. The first and most important being legal compliance of the enterprise. Now, we are very much aware that a lot of the businesses and a lot of SMEs are informal, and that has to change. We have to get to the point where we are a legal and viable entity. For one case, just to get services from us, you have to have a TIN number, because all payments go through the government payment system that is run by URA. So legal compliance of an enterprise is very, very important. Then we go into issues of compliance to good manufacturing practices, good hygienic practices. We're looking very much on the issue of personnel. What is the status of your personnel with reference to their competence as far as quality assurance is concerned, but also their health status. What is the health status of the people, and how much interaction is there between the people and the process you're in? The process itself, how do you monitor what is happening from the beginning to the end? Do you know where you get your raw materials from? What is the quality of that raw material? Because whatever is wrong in that raw material will turn up at the end, and you will have spent a lot of money on something without getting the value that you need. And of course, the equipment that you're running, how often do you clean it? How often do you maintain it? How do you make sure that everything that you're working on is actually meeting the requirements and not going to affect the product at all? We have the issue of product labeling. It is so important how you present your product, because that's what the consumer is going to use to make a decision. And so there are standards that govern the product labeling and the packaging itself. So you have to think about these things and know them beforehand. When you're dealing with the standards, it's not just the product itself, there's the labeling requirement as well as the process requirement. And then, of course, you have the product safety, where we have to actually test the product. Having gone through all these processes, is the product safe? And this testing can be done at UNBS or at recognized labs. The biggest challenge we are seeing with a number of MSMEs, and I thought I would highlight a few of them here, the product testing for conformity. Now, this is based on standards. And remember, standards are the baseline requirement. It means it's the lowest level. And we need to aspire to even anything higher than what's in the standard. The standard is the minimum requirement, below which you're now entering danger zone, and you cannot trade with a product that is going to cause problems to others. So you need to be able to also have your internal testing capacity. You must be able to check yourself. You cannot rely 100% on an external party to test for you, because you are doing this as you're making whatever it is you're making, you need to be monitoring the quality of what you're doing. So whenever you go into production, we always advise people, think about having your basic testing capacity within your premises as well. The personnel and the technical capacity, we need people who are competent in whatever field you are dealing with. If you're going to be a producer of honey, the person involved must know the science behind the honey. How do you keep things safe so that your honey does not ever get affected? You need to make sure that you're hiring the right people. Documentation, and what the previous presenter mentioned, you've got to have, IT can help you very much on the issue of quality control, quality assurance practices, and keeping records. You see, you have to have a record of what you're doing, because that helps give people assurance that you have your process under control. Then you have the proper labeling and safe packaging of the product. We always advise people, you need to have this kind of information, and it always starts with you. Because when you are aware and you're able to implement this, then by the time somebody comes to check you, you are in good standing and you're able to make progress. It always starts with you. The good manufacturing and good hygienic practices, facility where you are doing this matters. You find people have a very nice factory, and when we enter, the first thing we ask is, can we use the toilet that you give your staff? And when we go to that toilet, it is a disaster. Now, what makes you think that not keeping that toilet clean isn't going to, it will not have an effect on your process? You're making a very nice process, but you're not looking after the people who are supposed to be working. If you can't look after the toilet, because rest assured, what is in that toilet, you will find in your process. You have to be clean at all levels. So we're looking at some of the interventions that UNBS has made. And since we started the mandatory certification in 2018, we have had on-site gap analysis for a number of MSMEs, where we have had to go up wherever they are, see how they are doing, assess them, and give them guidance on what they need to do before they apply for certification. Standards implementation and training is part of what we have done as well. And we have gone to the level of simplifying the standards so that we can provide information that anyone can use, be able to implement and meet the requirements of the standards. We've carried out on-site auditing and on-site mentoring, product evaluation and development, and the certification service itself. The process is very straightforward, and it's an online system now, so you really do not need to come to us to be able to go through this certification process. However, right now, because the demand is very, very high, we ask people to be patient, because when you apply today, I can assure you we shall not see you until probably a month or two after that. But during that time, we always advise people to use some of the documents we have on our website to assess yourself and prepare yourself before we come. So basically, there is an online application, and where you have to apply and give some information about who you are and what you're doing. There's the process assessment, where auditors will come to your premises. And once they audit that, they will give you a report and tell you what you need to look out for, where you need to make changes. And once all that is complete, they will also take samples for testing. And then all that will be evaluated by a separate group who are not involved in the audit. And once that is confirmed, all fees are paid and the certification mark is issued. So the distinctive mark is a symbol of fitness for purpose. It means the product meets the standard requirements. It builds trust and confidence. It opens business opportunities. And for example, within the EAC, all the bureaus of standards have had their marks recognized. So if you have the UNBS Q mark, you can take your product to our neighboring EAC countries and they will not have to inspect them to take them in, because we have what we call a peer assessment on how we issue these certification marks within the EAC. It's just good business and gives you a competitive advantage. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I'm sure there may be some questions you'd like me to respond to, but that's a quick brief on what UNBS does and how we can be able to assist people as we are moving, regardless of the situation that we're in right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia. I personally have learned so much. And I guess one of my questions is, while I wait, I will allow Prudence to then ask her question, and then there's another one from Charlotte. When you talked about filling in the online form and then the auditor assessment and then the samples for testing and then the final certification mark being issued, roughly how long does this process take?
Well, at the moment, it's taking on average 4 months. Let me not lie, because the demand is very, very high and we just don't have the resources to cater for everyone as much as we would like to right now. Every year we've had to recruit more staff, because whether we like it or not, this is a process. And this is why we always tell people, please don't look at it as I pay a license and off I go. No, this is a process, and it starts with your prepared level. How ready are you? What is it that you're doing that's meeting the requirements in the standard? So the process takes time, and you have to be in a position to defend what you're doing. Now, one of the biggest delays we have, as I mentioned, is when you apply today, right now we have bookings every day from now, the whole of June, the whole of July, the whole of August. Every day has been taken up by a number of audits where we are visiting people to make sure we audit what they are doing. Now, this does not put you in any challenge, because as long as you have applied with us and you are in process to get your certification, the enforcers will not disturb you, because they will verify that you are on the system, and therefore the delay is ours, it's not your problem, and therefore we shall move together. Okay, so yes, there's that big delay, but once they audit you, there's that other delay that comes, which is very much the person who has been audited, because there are some non-conformances that have been raised, and the speed of that is dependent on you are responding to those non-conformances. Once that is done, the process moves very quickly, because once you submit the NCs and they are okay, it immediately goes to the CRC, and then the review committee sends it to the ED, and the permit is issued. So yes, on average right now, I will be very honest, it's taking us about 4 months. And that was a big backlog that came from the first lockdown. And now we are in another lockdown. But we are doing whatever we can not to exceed that 4 months. Basically, what that means is if we have to pull resources from other departments to support certification, that is what we do at UNB.
Sorry, turns out I was muted. I believe Prudence has a question for you as well.
Yeah, Patricia, thank you so much for your presentation. I'm Prudence Okuneka, the CEO of Better Wines and Juices.
Please go ahead.
No, there isn't. Are you listening? Am I on?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I thank Patricia so much for her nice presentation. And I'm proud to say that I have all the standards. I'm free to sell my product in the whole world. And by the time COVID came in, I had covered 15 countries in the world outside Uganda and East Africa. But now the challenge we have is that people are taking advantage of this lockdown to sell substandard products and compete with us. Patricia, I don't know whether you are aware of what is going on. It happened to us with last COVID. We lost a lot of our very nice drink, hibiscus juice, which helps people like in this lockdown where people are seated, and it helps in the digestion. There are so many benefits out of it, but substandard products came and competed with us because for them, they have not put anything. They do these things in their kitchen. My better wine, people start complaining of the price because these people just make wines in their kitchen. They don't use the proper fruits, and they come to the market and compete with us. Like now, they take advantage. You were doing a very good job with UIA of going all over the country, getting those substandard products. But now, when it's locked down, they take that advantage. And now imagine we are just moving all over, spending fuel. They say complain, the few customers who are there complain ours is expensive. They have those cheap ones. So Patricia, I don't know what you can do about that. I'm also worried about, I don't really, I'm not against about people who are producing, because there is this say of that buy Uganda, build Uganda. I wouldn't want to be alone in the market. I would be very, very proud to have fair manufacturers, because Bella cannot be the only one in the market. I would feel proud. I was the first one to start this business. I would be very, very happy if fair manufacturers can get these standards and follow all the standards, meet all the standards, pay tax, and we are in the market. But now they are not doing that. You find me, I fulfill everything, I pay tax, but for them, they are trading freely. And they're removing us from the market, because now the little we are selling, we are using it on transport, on fuel, on accommodation, but URA sees it as a sale. So the taxes, I'm unable to pay the taxes because the little money which comes out of it is used, because now, and I can't reduce the price because now I can't reduce the standard. Thank you so much. I wish I had more time to talk, because I have a lot of things present. Thank you so much. I thank the UIA for this meeting, and also UIA. I thank you so much for giving me land in Namamve. But unfortunately, I found it was water. I spent 100 million filling it. And when I filled it, people wanted it to, they started encroaching. When I needed help to me, I got it back. I put a perimeter wall, which took us 100 million. So now I'm stuck for building, putting it up. And now I was advised to go to UDB. UDB welcomed me. The process started very, very well, but in the end, they gave me, they never gave me that money. So now I'm unable to put up that structure which would be employing very many people, because my business is for helping people, solving problems of employment, solving the employment, problems with the farmers. You find it like before I started making wine out of pineapples we had no market. Passion fruits, all the fruits I process them, and now the market is very big. I need a bigger place. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prudence. I'm going to allow, Charlotte had a number of questions. So I don't know if Charlotte is there, if she can maybe summarize them for us.
Maybe is Charlotte the one with the questions on the chat, which I can respond to already?
Yes, please.
Because why don't I just go ahead and
Just
respond to
okay.
them?
All right. And then there's, I think, another question from, the hand has disappeared. There was a hand from Oliver, yes. Please go ahead and ask your question.
So
Thank you so much.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Oh, I want to thank you so much, all of you, for the presentation. And Patricia, I want to thank you so much from NBS. There's something that I wanted to add or to ask that you're doing there. But it's something I wanted to ask. Do you people have time to do the monitoring to the grassroots level? Because these products, where they come from, I think we need also to do the due diligence to know our products, how they are coming. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Because our products get problems when they are still there. So I would wish that NBS would take the responsibility of monitoring our products from the farmer, so that we can deal with the situation. For example, the situation of Kenya rejecting our products. It was really embarrassing. So if we really knew as early as possible, wouldn't have reached there. And I really wonder, how did it happen? Because the NBS is there to monitor, satisfy things before they get out. So my thinking would be, we need the monitoring from ground level, from actually the
Thank you very much. Patricia, I'll ask you to answer those questions. There are a few more in the chat. And then once you're done, we will move on to the next session.
Okay, thank you very much, Faith. Let me try and do this as fast as possible. Madame from Barra Wines, thank you very much. And we do appreciate, she is one of our clients who has been with us for a very long time. And actually, I do encourage other MSMEs to consult with her and see what she has done and how she has managed to get to where she is today. On the issue of substandard products on the market, yes, that is a problem. And yes, it has escalated during the COVID period, again, because movement during that time is very, very limited. And but this is not something that people should be worried about. COVID lockdowns don't last for very long, and our surveillance team is there to carry out this work. This is why the mandatory certification came up, and since then, a number of products have been removed because we don't even have to test your product. If you don't have the Q mark, you should not be on the market, and they will take your product. So what we do is we welcome any information about those who are producing unfairly. We are very able and capable of going out to remove these kind of products. And we should be coming up with more innovative methods that will enable us to identify these products a lot easier, including the consumers themselves. I can see Charlotte comment, does UNBS have an advisory department? What we have is an SME division, which was developed to specifically target MSMEs, and together with the Information Documentation Center, we are able to advise a number of people on the standards, the requirements of those standards, and how you can begin this process. So yes, please, this presentation, of course, that I've made will be given to everybody, and the last slide has the details of how to get in touch with us, and we shall be able to give you as much information as possible. We have been participating in a number of online activities during this very special time, but we shall continue to engage even further to make sure that people understand what is going on and give more information about standards. Yes, there's an anonymous attendee. I want to ask if there's any subsidizing of certification costs. We have subsidized to the very end. There's no more we can do right now. As we speak, we were actually able to reduce those prices 500,000 for MSMEs, which includes the permit and the audit fees as well, with a level of testing that doesn't go beyond a certain amount. And it's about 500 for MSMEs flat rate and 1 million for the ones that are larger. So quite frankly, let me be honest with you, the price is not the problem. It's the ability to meet the standards that is the problem. And I advise people very much, please focus on what it takes to meet those standards. And as Madam Winnie mentioned earlier, come together. It is very difficult for people to be by themselves. When you come together as associations, you are in a much better position to get services from an institution like ours. We have been able to help associations very, very well. I would very much encourage people to come together. Yes, there's a question on policing arm. As I mentioned, yes, we do have a policing arm, that is the surveillance department. We even have a special court which deals with standard utilities and tourism, if I'm not wrong. So we have been prosecuting people for doing what is wrong. We do not handle counterfeits, we handle substandard products. The debate on counterfeit is another whole story, which really is covered by the URSB, and they would very clearly explain that better, because counterfeit has to do with intellectual property. And yes, the hotline and all the ways to get in touch with us, as I mentioned, is on the last slide of my presentation. Honorable Katwesige, thank you very much for your comment. You want to know if the standards monitoring process can be started from the beginning. Now, food safety is a value chain issue. We must be aware of this. It starts from the farm and ends with the fork. Now, along that chain, there are different institutions or stakeholders that have different competence. Now, to begin with the raw material, there's a lot of competence that UNBS does not have. We are more the kind of institution that handles the end bit of that chain. At the beginning, we have institutions like the Ministry of Agriculture that looks into issues to do with crop disease, harvest, post-harvest handling, and so many other issues, which is actually their competence. How we come in here is the way we work together. We work together with Ministry of Agriculture to make sure that the standards they require are developed. We work together when it comes to training, when it comes to stakeholder engagement. The issue is that we have to make sure everybody along this value chain understands what their role is and is able to do what is expected of them. Because we are more towards the end, but at that end, we actually check what the quality of the raw material that is going into the added value process. And if you have a challenge there, you will definitely have challenges when it comes to gaining certification. So yes, we all need to put an effort here. It's not a one-man show, and hopefully the collaboration that is in existence right now is very good. And I'm very hopeful that we are going to be able to sort out our food safety issues here in Uganda. I hope I've been able to answer most of these questions.
Yes, you have. There is one very, very last question before I let you go.
Yes.
What does the business do during the 2 months plus as we wait for UNBS inspection? This is in the event that during the planning and implementation of a business, 2 months is a long wait, whereby a lot of resources and time have already been spent. So what should a business really be doing during that time?
Like I said, actually, and it's unfortunate that people don't actually start with the standards before they spend anything. But the issue is first start with what are the standards that govern your business. If, for example, you are producing milk, there is a product standard for milk, but there's also a labeling standard for milk. And then there are good hygienic practices that are required for the production of milk. So those are already 3 standards that you should have with you. You should be conversant and aware and understand what is in them. What we've also done is provided self-assessment forms on our website. The self-assessment form is basically a snapshot of what the audit is going to be like when our auditors come to assess you. So you are able to ask yourself some very good questions and assess yourself, because you look at that question and you realize, I don't have this. So now you have to begin the process of establishing these things. And in that place, you can still consult with us. As I mentioned, we have an MSME division and also the Information Resource Center, where information can be given on what you need to do before an audit comes. So in that 1 to 2 months, we ask people, use that time to make sure that you are ready for the audit by using the data that is available on our website and getting in touch with those who have that information here at UNBS, and we should be able to help.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Thank you so much. And that is a very good segue into our next session, which...
Before you go to the next session, yes, I think the Honorable Olivia asked Patricia something that I think goes far beyond their mandate as an organization, and that was to do with monitoring at grassroots levels. I think on this one, I think this is where we now need to start looking at where is the team Uganda playing. I think very importantly, especially even as we go into the parish module delivery, every parish should be looking and saying, what is our unique advantage? What are those products that we need to be capturing and leveraging in to position ourselves as a parish? And I think it's at that level where they start looking at what quality of seeds are coming into our parish. And that then begins to set the pace. I don't think there's any MDA that will be able to be everywhere at the same time. So I think it's supposed to be a really, concerted effort to see that everybody plays their part of the ball game. And if you're able to do that, then really the other support MDAs will come to take the products to the next level. I thought maybe I just need to share that. And that's why it's also very important as associations. If we have associations and you're getting products from somewhere, for example, just use shea butter. Most organizations that or companies or enterprises that are using shea butter here do not have to go to the source anymore, because there's a complete clear value chain that is delivered. The person who is doing the cold press knows exactly what they should be doing. And all I do is I buy it from here and add more value to it. So I think that is where the issue of economy of scales begins to play in, but also from the local government perspective, from the politicians' perspective, what are we doing to ensure that quality starts at the farm gate? Thank you. I thought I'd just share that.
Thank you so much for that, Madam Winnie.
Faith, I just wanted to, there was one question which I didn't cover too well, just very briefly.
Sure.
The issue of cost There's one challenge we're also getting when we have MSMEs who are starting the process with too many products. You are killing yourself from the very beginning. Even the big companies that we have right now, all of them came with one. So we always encourage people, start with one product, get that product through the process and establish that product. In fact, your bigger challenge is establishing yourself in the market. There's a misconception that you need to have many products out there, but what is happening is that people are spreading themselves so thin and the quality of what they are making cannot be sustained. So we always ask people, please come with one product and start with that one product and establish your niche market. And then from there, you will be able to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia, for that. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce and invite Madam Grace Achebe-Labong to talk to us about. Grace wears so many hats that I'm very excited to hear what she's going to be talking about. So Grace, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and just launch. You have about 20 minutes. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Faith. Good afternoon, good evening, I think now. It's already 4 o'clock. This has been one of those very exciting presentations. Patricia, hi, how are you? Long time. It's good to see that you're still very active helping women in business. Ladies and gentlemen, my presentation is going to be now looking at us ourselves as the women in business. I'm called Grace Achebe. I am a business person as well. I own a consulting firm. I also sit on a number of programs that are supporting women in business and also sectors like the Alliance for Trade and Information Services, which really looks at businesses, SMEs in IT and IT companies. We are in the process of establishing our web, and web gets to contribute towards developing women in business. I also am partnering with Uganda Investment Authority, and we are working on providing what we call the youth apprenticeship program, which I think would be very useful for some of you, most of you, if you want to cut down your cost of doing your business and formalization and making sure that you are more competitive, but at a low cost. The youth apprenticeship program is there, that has been established, and UIA is establishing a database which will help you to access these resources. So my presentation, I'm going to share my screen now. My presentation, yesterday when I was thinking about it, somehow as a business person, I kept asking myself, what is it that needs to be done to improve us as women in business, to make a difference, to make a difference in where we've been and where we have come from. As women in business, I have been part of this program. I used to work for UIA, and I asked myself, what has changed? And I realized that very little has changed. And it really bothered me a lot. And I'm asking myself, why is that as women in businesses, we seem to be going in circle and circle and circle. So my presentation is going to address that, although looking at agro-processing as well as looking at the youth apprenticeship program. But I really want us to look at ourselves and see what can we do differently our perspective. It's the same group in this to be demonstrated. So I decided to take a look and saying, let me look at who are the successful women in business. And I found out that the majority of these women are all from the US, from China, from India, from Singapore, from Europe. Africa has got very few women who are considered successfully, who have built their businesses, grown their businesses, and they've become a brand, and it's a business that will survive them beyond when they retire. Now, when I looked at Uganda, I went on online, and these are the only two people that seems to be profiled as successful business women in Uganda, and you know both of them, Julian Omala, Mama Cheers, and Amina. Where are the rest of the other women? I found more women coming from South Africa, more women from Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, but in Uganda, we seem to be really way behind. And that really bothered me a lot. So I asked myself, why are we few? Like I said, we started this women entrepreneurship network 20 years ago with Dr. Maggie Chigozie. I was working at UIA, and I'm still here today. And I can't tell that for me, actually today I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to everybody else, that I've progressed to a place where it should be. So what has changed and what hasn't changed, and why, and what needs to change for us women in business to move forward to the next level? Now, I found out that in a positive sense, very little has changed. It's still the same group of women who most of us who are about to retire are the ones who are still in this kind of network. And we need to bring in new younger generation of businesses. Other things that have changed, which is now going to force us to change, is COVID. COVID has brought in a new change. So what are we going to do about it? And what are some of the issues that has been affecting us? Have they changed? When we started this program, the same issues were access to capital, limited capacity, stunted growth, access to market, inadequate quantities and quality, which Patricia has been talking about, limited value addition apart from Bella Wine. Very few of us are doing any quality value addition that allows us to be able to compete in the international market. And then the most important thing, which Winnie has been, somehow I didn't even talk to her about it, but it seems to be resonating through this program, collaboration. We need to collaborate. I was very amused when she started talking about collaboration before and I was like, wow, that was what I was thinking about. And I was very pleasantly surprised because of that. So why has this been the same issues and nothing has changed? I think as women in business, and I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to every one of us, we've been using the same approach to address new market dynamics. The market is changed. Richard talked about IT and innovation needed to improve on our businesses. Now you are not competing with the businesses that are only in Uganda. You're competing with a global market, and the competition is getting tougher because there are people who have been doing these things and they're doing it much better. The Chinese are coming in and bringing in their products. And by the way, China is no longer a low quality source of products. They are improving on they've improved on their quality, and they are becoming one of the top destination for any production. So we can no longer say, oh, that thing is from China, is poor quality. Now we need to change how to be able to get into this global market. What are we doing to improve on our quality? What are we doing to improve on our quantity? What are we doing to improve on our delivering time? What are we doing to keep our commitment? So we need to change that as women in business. I also noticed that as women in business, I'm talking to myself. I hope there's women who are like me out there who are doing business. Until recently, I realized that, we are so afraid of failure. We are afraid of the unknown. We are afraid of what may be not so good enough, that we may not be so good enough. And we are afraid of taking risks. And you can see that if we don't do that, we will not be able to move to the next level. Then we worry so much about what people think about us. we compare ourselves with each other. Instead of working with each other, we compare ourselves. And then we don't cooperate. And that is the collaboration aspect, because my presentation is basically going to emphasize the need for collaboration. We don't cooperate. We would rather be the big fish in that pond, in that swimming pool behind your house, instead of being a small fish in a big ocean. This is some of the things that this mindset change that Richard talked about is what we really need to bring into, if we have to compete and we have to become true entrepreneurs, not just doing business for the sake of providing for our needs, basic needs every day. So how can we do that? My thinking is that we now need to appreciate that things have changed. And the main thing is to start working on collaboration. And this is really something that we cannot run away. The world today, when you look at how businesses is being done, all businesses collaborate. And as Ugandan women in business, we need to start learning how to collaborate within ourselves, associations with other associations, clusters with other clusters, regions with other regions, and also how we can be able to collaborate globally within the region, within Africa, within the world. There are so many networks of women in business out there who can be able to work with us to be able to help us to get into the global market. The other thing that Richard had already talked to, and I think Winnie also talked to, is issues of the value chain approach to doing business. This is so especially very critical for the agro-processing. We are working in small, fragmented, small businesses within the value chain. Let's take, for instance, let's just say Bella Wine, since I know her and since she was the one who talked. She needs to be able to improve much more bigger market. Imagine if you got a big deal to supply, say, an American chain. Will you be able to do that on your own? You need to look at how can I work with people who grow the fruits to be able to give them the quality, the requirements, and the standards that they need to do to make sure that from the fruits up to the point in time that it reaches to your factory and up to the point in time that it is taken out of the country, there is a seamless standard that is kept and maintained. Now, that requires that there is a lot of collaboration within the value chain. So the value chain approach is what we need to do. There is no way we can be able to compete if we are working on as individual businesses along a sector. And this is something that I think when you look at, even in IT, in all the big organizations, they've adopted the value chain approach. The second thing is value addition. I'm glad that now this is something that is taking place. We are no longer just selling out raw products, although still there's quite a lot. When I go to my village during mango season, I get really very upset because I see how mango gets rotten, because everybody has a mango tree and the mango falls down and there is no one who can buy the mango. And yet this mango could be processed, this mango could be stored, this mango could be used in the next, maybe during the season when there is no mango season. But because there is no value addition equipment, everybody throws their mango and they flies all over the place because nobody can eat all that mango. And these are resources that are being wasted. Then we also need to start involving youth. Now, I told you that we are working with Uganda Investment Authority in the youth apprenticeship program. It's called the youth apprenticeship program because what we do is basically, we realize that as SME, most of you are probably one woman, two people or three people business. The cost of running a business has increased up, and to hire a full-time professional in your business is expensive. And so what do you do? you find there are requirements from UIA, from the registration bureau, from all these other. You want to go into procurement. There's so many requirements, and you as a business owner would not have that time to do that. Now, if you had a lot of money, you would hire all the experts that you want. But most of us don't have that kind of money. So the youth apprenticeship program looks at all these young people who are coming out of the university, who are qualified, but they don't have jobs. All they need is a bit of skilling, and they can be able to provide services. So what we do is we are skilling these young people. We are giving them competence. We are giving them mindset change. We are giving them better attitude. And we are asking them to come and support small businesses. Now, they don't have to be employed full-time. What they do is, if you want to keep your record for your financial records, all you need is the person coming to your workplace once in a week. If you have a lot of material, some people will need maybe 2 times in a month. The person comes and makes up your report and gives you your record. You make your decisions and you submit in your returns, and you are compliant. And how much do you pay him? You pay him only for the time he or she has been there with you. It's a win-win situation. The person gets a job, you get the services. So this is what we're trying to do. We want to be able to integrate this youth to help us to grow our businesses and become a little bit much more competent and resilient. Then they are also better. I know Richard talked about IT, and some of us asking, what is this? How can I do this? I don't know how to go on the internet. I don't know how to. Now, if you want to start selling your product to Europe, I want to get an e-commerce platform. How do I do that? Do I have that time? Now, these young people are very capable of doing that for you. All you have to do is be able to equip them. They will be equipped in digital literacy, and they can to provide this support, not only. So we're looking at this as a way to help us to make sure that we don't spend too much money on operations, but we get the quality of services that is required. So that is where we would like to apply the youth apprenticeship program. And for some of us who have children, this is a good thing. Our kids are coming out of universities, they're sitting at home, and you don't know what to do with them. This is a good place for them to be able to get some bit of experience. Finally, we need to become, as a group, I know everybody has been talking about this group. Individually, we are weak. How do we get our voices? Somebody talked about advocacy. We need to advocate for our voices, for our needs to be heard. Right now, there's supposed to be UIA, which is the umbrella body for all women entrepreneurship, but not everybody have access to to UIA. Now, when it's providing us with such a platform that allows all these associations to come together and bring all the women issues to them, and they are part of the government, they're able to present this information, these requirements, these needs and the challenges that we are facing to government. So we need to come together as women in business. It doesn't matter which association you belong to, but if the associations come together, we are able to have a much more stronger voice, and the government will hear us.
Grace?
Yes?
You have about 2 minutes.
Wow. Okay. Sorry, I've taken too long. Okay. Now, so the issue of collaboration, I wanted to bring the issue of collaboration because it's the reason why I'm here. I would like to introduce to you AWEP. AWEP is the African Women Entrepreneurship Program. It was established to be able to support to promote the business growth and to increase trade between Africa and US under the AGOA initiative. And AWEP, even though it was registered, it has not been working very well. So we would like to bring AWEP to be part of this program, this part of WEN, and to collaborate with WEN. The rest you'll get the details why AWEP is important. But AWEP is basically focusing on export to the US. Now there are a number of you who are doing businesses and are looking forward to exporting your services. to Europe, to the US, and to other parts of Africa. And we would like to work together with different women partners, with women programs like WEN, BPW, so that we can be able to develop this new approach of collaboration. And our web is going to be one of those that is going to be focusing on the export side. So any of you who is interested in being part of the export, who is interested in exporting their products, this is the best place for you to be. There is incentives for being part of our web, because we still have about 4 years to go, and we cannot wait until until the time has ended. So many other countries have benefited from AGOA. Uganda has not benefited that much. Maybe this is our time. It's a short time, but we can take advantage of the time. So going forward, we are going to be partnering with Women Entrepreneurship Network, BPW, so that we can work on advocacy, but also work on building a value chain. My suggestion was, these are some of the sectors that our web looks at: fashion, textile, agribusiness, and home decor. Now, those of you who are already in those kind of businesses, I think it's important that we come together. We will be sending out a notice through WEN and see how you can be able to join our web and be part of the export market. So that is my presentation. Thank you very much. If there's any questions.
Thank you so much, Grace. It's a very, very, I did not know as much as what a web was up to, and I'm very, very happy to be part of this. Members, we have about 4 minutes to the end of this meeting. So I have not seen, I don't know if there's anyone with a burning question, just one question for Grace. There's no burning question? Okay. I am not seeing any hands going up, but I think that certainly we would be very interested in having that information that you're talking about, that we can share with the members, so that they can know how they can collaborate with the web, especially when it comes to reaching markets beyond this one. As we close, I just wanted to quickly point out a few things, at least that stood out to me. And one of them is we need to be able to collaborate as women in business and stop being big fish in a pond, and instead be, instead of being, small fish in an ocean. And so that means that we need to work together as units from the grassroots going all the way up. I want to say, on behalf of Uganda Investment Authority, thank you so much for spending the time with us today. We will be here again tomorrow from 2:30 to 4:30, and we'll be talking about access to finance. So if you'd like to join us, you're more than welcome. If you know anyone who will benefit from this, please let them know. We will be here online again. We will have speakers from Opportunity Bank. We will have Dr. Maggie Chigozi will be here also from the Business Professional Women's Network. We will have somebody from the Ugandan Insurers Association. And it's a very exciting time to talk about finance. I see Enid's hand is up. I am going to let you for 1 minute because I really only have 1 other minute. Enid, please go ahead. Enid, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I would like to ask how I can join a web. I extract share button and I'm very interested in the export market. She said she would give me information to WEN, but I'm not a member. Can she please send information to Will?
Okay.
Thank
I think
you.
that's certainly doable because we are also partners with UL. So we will certainly send that information through.
Thank you.
And I don't know, Madam Winnie.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I think we've given ourselves a very tall order, and we need to have a real sober mind to do that. Is it the Japanese or Chinese saying that a step of 1,000 miles starts with one step? And I think this is our one step. We're all invited for tomorrow, but more specifically, we are going to be having this engagement monthly. We're going to be having this engagement monthly. So it is so important that your ideas or things that are biting you hard come to the table. Two, for me, collaboration and the issue that Charlotte brought about for Facebook, because I think a number of SMEs were using Facebook to actually market their products. And we need to see how we can work through that. So it's a big lobby and advocacy thing that we need to work on. And we will see ourselves go through. We are lucky that the Prime Minister is a lady. The Vice President is a lady. Let's package ourselves well to see how we can move out of our stagnation. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Adios.
Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming.